again. I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll have a roll call. We're going to have to vote on everything by roll call, and let's see if we can establish a quorum. Chairman is here. Don, are you here?
I'm present.
Okay. Sue, are you present?
I'm present.
Okay. Karen?
I'm here.
Okay. Andrew?
I'm here.
Okay, we have a quorum. And call on Mr. Crohan for his motion dealing with the type of meeting we're having tonight.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we have the meeting electronically tonight because of the COVID virus at this time.
Second.
Proper motion and a second. Roll call. Chairman votes yes. Don?
Don Crohan, yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Did I get everybody? Okay. Motion carries. Now let's see. Public statement. Do we have anybody listening in from the audience? John?
Yes, we do have some people listening from the audience. Hear from them at each individual public hearing.
Okay. And I'll read our statement to the public. This is the Board of Zoning Appeals. It's made up of 5 individuals. One may be a county commissioner, one may be a member of the county planning commission. The rest of us are not otherwise connected with county government. We'll call the item and we'll ask the people representing the item to pay attention. Staff will read their report. I'll go to the presenters, the people wanting a motion, and let them add anything else that they might want to do. Be sure we've got all the information on the record. And at some point, I'll open the meeting for public hearing. When I open the meeting for public hearing, those folks in the audience wishing to make comments on the item will be recognized and they'll have an opportunity to speak. We'll ask you to speak to the board. We're the ones that have to vote tonight, and we'll be sure we hear everything. So I'll ask you not to have any side conversations. We don't pick up on those. When everyone's had their opportunity to speak, I'll close the public hearing and we'll go to the board for questions, comments, concerns. And at some point, a motion will be made either to agree with the request or to deny the request. Anyone that disagrees with the finding of our board has the opportunity to appeal. The appeal process is 3 steps. 1, you can wait a year and come back before the board and ask for it to be reconsidered. Or you can petition the county commission and the county planning commission and ask them to change the ordinance. Our body does not have the authority to make any changes to the ordinance. Our job is to simply interpret the ordinance and apply it to a particular case. The planning commission and the county commissioners are the ones who actually write the ordinance. So you can go to them and ask them to make a change that may take care of your problem. As a final step, going to the Chancery Court is always open as a final step to have this item reviewed. And let's see. Okay. With that, we'll go to. Has everyone had an opportunity to read their minutes? Is any corrections or changes to the minutes?
This is Don Crohan. I move we accept the minutes as written.
Sue
Second.
Wortman, I accept. Second.
We have a proper motion and a second. Those in favor of the motion, we'll do another roll count. Chair is in favor of the motion. Don?
Don Crohan, yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Motion carries. Now we'll call the first item. And Steve Clifton, item number 1. And Aaron, I believe this is your item.
That's correct. Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to read from a corrected report that corrects the voting district of this project. This is a request by Steve Clifton of Liberty Tomahawk LLC Consulting, John Woodison property owner, for special use approval of a residential business to allow a woodworking shop located at 5639 Bending Chestnut Road. Property is on Rural Preservation 5 and is located in the first voting district. The applicant is requesting approval of a residential business for a woodworking shop. Property in question is zoned Rural Preservation 5, and this use is considered a special use within the RP5 zoning district and must be reviewed by this body at a public hearing. Parcel in question is located on Bending Chestnut Road, approximately 1,700 feet south of its intersection with Pinewood Road. The sole access to the proposed use will be from a single entrance on Bending Chestnut Road. Surrounding properties range in size from approximately 8 acres to 74 acres and are used for residential or agricultural purposes. According to the site plan and the applicant's letter of intent, the applicant is proposing to construct a 2,220 square foot building utilizing approximately 2,000 square feet of that area for a woodworking shop, with the remaining square footage dedicated to personal use. The areas for personal use have been walled off. The applicant will teach woodworking to as many as 4 students at a time, 3 times a week, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. The owner will be the only employee, and there will be no painting on site. The Williamson County Department of Sewage Disposal Management has reviewed and approved the request. HB&TS Utility Districts provides water to the property, and staff has received confirmation that water service is available. The Williamson County Highway Department has reviewed the request and has approved the access to Bending Chestnut Road. A landscaping plan with the appropriate buffers shown has been reviewed and approved by staff. Section 5.01 of the zoning ordinance outlines the board's responsibilities while reviewing special uses, and subsection E outlines the review standards that should be considered when evaluating special uses. During its deliberations, the board will need to make a finding as to whether the proposed residential business meets the requirements of section 5.01E of the zoning ordinance. The proposed use is consistent with the Williamson County Comprehensive Land Use Plan and the RP5 zoning district. The proposed use complies with all requirements of the zoning ordinance, and the use will be adequately served by the needed infrastructure upon completion of all infrastructure improvements. With regards to the site plan, ordinance standards have been met, including the specific requirements associated with residential business standards. Site plan is in order, and the staff can approve the site plan should the Board of Zoning Appeals find the application meets the requirements of number 1, section 5.01E, and number 2, section 11.04 D10 of the zoning ordinance. Staff recommends approval of the special use with the stipulation that all signage must be approved per ordinance requirements.
John, you have something to add?
I really don't have anything to add, but the site plan was attachment 1-1 in your packets. And I think, can y'all see it on the screen? I think it's on the screen now. This, where I'm hovering over, is the existing residence, and the proposed shop is down here. Bending Chestnut Road up here, and the distance is from the road to the structure listed. That's all I have on this item.
Okay, Mr. Woodson or Mr. Clifton, who would like to speak on this item?
This is Steve Clifton. I'm going to defer initially to Mr. Woodson to kind of give a description of himself and his qualifications for doing this.
Okay, you say Clifton is going to speak?
I'm going to allow Mr. Woodson to start.
Oh,
and
Mr. Woodson.
I'll answer any technical questions related to the plan.
Okay. Mr. Woodson, if you would go ahead.
Hey, John, you got to hit your mute button. Hit the mic button in the corner.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm John Williamson. I am a state certified industrial technology teacher. I started teaching in public high schools in 1987, and I am recently retired, and I want to keep serving students. I've served over 5,000 students in the years that I've taught shop class at the school level. I've also been a principal for 6 years of my career. But I like working in the shop, and I'm going to continue serving students and special needs students as well as homeschool students during the day. and I'm just going to continue doing that. And we would like to offer wood shop for the kids, and maybe if that goes well, we can have other classes such as small engines or metal shop, or just home maintenance classes, whatever the kids show an interest in. But I've had a long career in public education, and I just want to continue working with the kids. So I thought I would have my own shop here on my property and allow the students to come out and give them a nice new building with all really nice tools, and serve the students as best I can.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clifton, anything else from your side?
Sure, I'd like to add a little bit to that.
Okay, go right ahead.
Of course, an 18-acre piece of property. There'll be no parking on site. Just drop off at 9, come back, pick your child up at 11. So no parking. Everything's indoors. It's very, you can see the distance to the property line, so we don't expect any noise to get out or anything like that. So that's basically what we're proposing.
Okay. At this point, I will open the meeting for a public hearing. Is anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item? If you would, identify yourself for the record. John, is anybody on the telephone that wants to speak?
If you're referring to me, I don't think so. I've talked to all my neighbors, and nobody had a problem with what I want to do with the property. We all get along pretty good out here, and they're all very supportive of what I'm going to do.
Okay. I'll ask you if anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item.
We did have a couple of calls on this item. I did send the invitation to a couple of people. I don't know that they are participating at this time, but if they are, now is the time to speak on this item for the public hearing. I don't believe we have one, Chairman Osbrooks.
Okay, I hear nothing. So we'll close the public hearing and we'll go to the board now for questions, comments, concerns. I have one question I'd like to ask. In your write-up, it says there will be no painting. Does that mean no stains also, or is it just for paint?
Mr. Chairman, I'll defer that to Mr. Woodison.
Okay.
If the students have a small woodworking project, which, I'm assuming that they're going to go ahead and finish, they should, if they would want to stain it, that would just be a small quarter or a quart jar that we could use. And, but there's not going to be any spraying of any kind, and there will be no aerosols. It would just be like a paintbrush, stain a small project, or maybe a rag to wipe it off with, but there won't be any kind of aerosols and nothing in the environment that's negative. We buy the stains at Walmart, Lowe's. It's all readily available locally, to the general public. So there's no, cause for concern for any kind of environmental impact.
Okay, good deal. One more question. Board, anyone else has a question or concern?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Karen Emerson McPeak. Now, I'm wondering about the students. Are there only 4? Is there a length of time, or only 4 at one time? I'm just concerned how many people will actually be there. So, and if there's only 4 per day, I'm not sure what you mean when you say 4. That would be, I guess, for Mr. Woodson to answer.
Mr. Woodison,
Yes, yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I'm only, I want small classes. I'll have the shop as well as the classroom attached for the 2,000 square feet. I I had many more students. I had an average of 18 to 24 students in my shop classes in public school for all these years, but I want to keep it small, so I can give them all individualized attention, and for their safety, as well as just that's how many students I want to have. So yes, it'll be small classes. I'm planning on 4 at a time. It might be the fact that I might have one class of 4 on Monday, one class of 4 on Wednesday, and one class of 4 different students on a Friday. But I am intending to have very small classes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Material, will all the material be stored inside?
Yes, sir.
And as far as disposal of, I know you said a small amount, but as far as disposal of the stain and the material that's left over, how will that be stored?
I'll have a explosion-proof cabinet. It's a yellow cabinet that every shop probably in the country that had wood shop had in their classrooms, and I'll store the leftover stain in there, so it's all safe.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, this is Don Trohan again. I'm ready for a motion.
I'm ready. Go ahead.
I would like to approve this special use at 5639 Bending Chestnut Road, meeting the standards of section 5.01E and section 11.04 D10.
Proper motion. Do we have a second?
Andrew Ring, second.
Proper motion and a second. Roll call. The chair votes yes. Ms. Crohan?
Don Trohan, yes.
Sue? We lose Sue?
Sue Ortman, yes.
Okay. Karen?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Motion carries. Appreciate you gentlemen showing up this evening, and staff will get with you for what you need to do next. And that will call the next item, item 2. And this is a request by, let's see, Gerald Bugsy. Who's doing item 2?
It's Holly Scott. I'll be reading item 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have,
A
do we have
request
the
by,
centers on?
yes, I do see Gerald Busey is on.
Okay.
And he has power of attorney.
All right. Go ahead.
A request by Gerald Busey on behalf of Graham and Alice Burcham for a floodplain variance of 1440 Mintel Drive. The property is zoned Rural Preservation 5 and is located in the 9th District. Graham and Alice Burcham are the owners of 1440 Mintel Drive. According to the tax records, the owners purchased the property in October of 2007. The applicant has submitted a zoning inquiry to the planning department regarding building a second residential dwelling on the property in the floodplain. In response, the engineering department said a new structure cannot be constructed in the floodplain, given that the parcel has changed configuration or was subdivided since April 1st of 1981. It does not meet the requirements of section 1907B5. This open issue led to the planning department disapproving the request for a second residential dwelling. The applicant has now requested a variance for the house to be located in the floodplain. Attachment 2-6 delineates the permitted uses in the areas of special flood hazard. A residence is not allowed in the 100-year floodplain. Variances are subject to the provisions delineated in section 5.02 and specifically the standards outlined in section 5.02F of the zoning ordinance.
Okay. Mr. Busey, are you here? I'm sorry,
Yes,
John.
sir. Yes, sir.
Not get ahead of myself. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'd like to just add a couple of things to this. This lot was created by plat in 2007, and in 2009, the owners were presented before the Planning Commission for approval for the residences there now and a horse barn. That did gain approval in 2009. They got the building permits and built those structures in 2009. At the time, the base flood elevation for the property was listed as by the insurance program maps, the FEMA maps, at 608.5 elevation. And we did have elevation certificates for those structures that are above that elevation. After the floods in 2010, no new studies were done. The new maps went into effect in December of 2016. The base flood elevation now for the property is, I've got a little better picture for you here. The base flood elevation is at 608.5. So it raised it about 3.5 feet in elevation, which puts the entire property within the flood zone. So you can see here's the house that was constructed in 2009, 2010, and the location of the approximate location of the proposed new structure that at the time was out of the flood zone, but now with the new map that is completely within the 100-year floodplain.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Busey, would you like to add
Yes.
anything to staff's report?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
This site plan that was approved in 2010 was for a therapeutic equine business, and actually it's a nonprofit. It's a 501c3, I guess it is 501c3. And the Burchams bought the property so that their daughter could actually provide that therapeutic service in an equine setting. And that's why they had to get a commercial site plan approved. And at the time, they actually stated that they wanted to build the second house at some point. And because they were not going to build it at the time that the site plan was approved, we had to take that second residence off the site plan per the planning department. But now the plan was always that the Burchams would live in the smaller house that was built at the time after the site plan was approved. And they had planned to build a second house. So when the 501c3 took off a little bit and they got more clients, that they could build a second house, and their daughter, who is the manager and chief therapist of the stable, could move into the smaller house, and then that would allow them to be on the property and help with that with the nonprofit, but not be so much involved in the day-to-day because they are retired. So that was always in the plan, and at the time that the site plan was approved, that was allowable. Because they were not, the second site was not in the floodplain. And then, of course, May 10 flood, raised the floodplain elevation and here in a lot of places. Actually, right in the back there of that track, that is the Harpeth River. So they got hit pretty hard there. And it's really put them in a hardship because they need this second residence so that their daughter can move into that and take charge of the day-to-day on that. And their business is or the number of clients or patients, whatever you want to call them, has increased to the point to where they really need that now. So that's worked a hardship on them. This is not a money-making operation. It's just a plan that they've had for some time to put into place, and this was part of it. So in this instance, obviously it's a hardship on the whole business as well as the nonprofit, the family not be able to put another house on there. But they're willing. Normally, this would be allowable if it was not in the floodplain. And of course, like I said, it was not when they got the site plan approved. But they want the board to know that they're willing to raise the finished floor 5 feet above the floodplain, and meet all the requirements that would normally be required for building in the floodplain. They would put the flood vents in, flow through, so there would be no net displacement of material that would affect anybody downstream. And if there's any grading done or any excavation done, they're willing to take the material out of the floodplain, which the whole site's in the floodplain now, and use that material. And if need be, they're willing to haul off material so that there would actually be less displacement as a result of this construction. They just need to be able to do this because of the hardship that it puts on if they can't. And it looks to me like when I read this ordinance, this 5.02 is a classic example of for approval of this variance, just because this was not something that they did. It was not something that they omitted or something that they did wrong. They were perfectly right in doing what they did before this flood, which was basically nobody really knows, but probably 1,000-year flood hit this property, and it was obviously an act of God and not something that they did. And this 502.f section allows for that approval in a case of exceptional practical difficulties or exceptional and undue hardship. And it says that it may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of this ordinance, which there is no problem with that. So we would ask that you would allow this variance in this case. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, anyone else in your group want to speak?
No, there's nobody here that I know of.
Okay.
Chairman Osbrook, this is John Bledsoe again. I would like to let you know that our county engineer, Floyd Heflin, is present at the meeting if you have any questions on the flood zone.
Does Floyd have any comments he wants to make now?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm here to answer any questions. I think John set it up pretty good. The floodplain basically changed with the revised flood model came out in 2016 by 3 to 3.5 feet all through that area. And that was the most impacted area in the county, right, downstream of Meeting of the Waters where Cottonwood and River Landing are. So, that obviously took an area. They used to have some area that was out where we had approved the riding facility and the existing residents, and they were able to get that in. But now that whole area back there, like John said, the whole parcel is now impacted by the floodplain. And that model, the Harpeth model, was originally done in like 1978. So late 70s, and it wasn't revised until after the 2010 flood. So obviously there were changes in topography, there were changes in development that went on, city of Franklin and in the unincorporated county. So that's what kind of got to this point here today.
Okay. I believe at this point, we will open the meeting now for a public hearing. Is anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item? If you so desire to speak, please identify yourself. I'm hearing no response. John, do you have any response?
No, sir, I don't believe anyone is present to speak, but if they are, now is the opportunity to speak on this item. And I don't hear anyone present, Chairman Osbrooks.
Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. Go to the board for questions, comments, concerns. I'll express two concerns. One is approving this item. I'm not sure what liability the board incurs, and maybe our attorney can answer that. Approving this item and allowing folks to build in the floodplain where our ordinance says pretty clear and straightforward that you can't do that. It doesn't say you can do that if you make changes and you take dirt out and you put dirt in or whatever. It just says you can't do it. I'm concerned that making a finding of approval might be some liability on our part. And then the other part of that is what we do for the parties in this part of the floodplain. We probably can expect to see some other requests similar likewise, and it gives me concern. So with that, I will let the other board members have their say. Floor is now open for comments, concerns.
This is Don. Can I make a comment?
Sure, go right ahead.
My concern is being in the flood area causes a safety problem for not only the owners of the property or the people that are living there, I should say, but also first responders, as we saw during the 2010. So I think it's an error for us to go ahead and say we can build in the flood area, especially when it's clear in the ordinance for those reasons that we shouldn't build in the flood area.
Okay. Other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is Don again. For the reasons that I just mentioned and not meeting the standards of 5.02 and 5.02F of the ordinance, I feel that we should turn this variance down at this time.
Okay.
If that was a motion, I'll second that. This is
A
Karen.
motion and a second. Having a discussion on the motion. Everyone understand the motion is to disallow the request. Seeing no one comment. Is there someone wishing to speak? Okay, so
May I address that?
no, sir. This is board talking now. We passed the public hearing.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Don has made a motion. We have a second to the motion. I see no one wanting to discuss it, so I assume you're ready to vote. Chair votes yes to the motion. Don? How do you vote? Don, how do you vote?
I vote yes to the motion to turn it down.
Okay. Sue?
Yes to the motion.
Karen?
Yes to the motion.
Andrew?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is not approved. Call our next item, item number 3. request, and I will not try to pronounce these names because I'll mess them up. So item 3 would, is this, who has this item?
This is Holly. I'll be reading this item again.
Okay. If you will call out the names, because I'll screw them up.
Okay, yes. This is a request by Marco DeCiccio and Robert Nicewarner for a special use permit for a temporary special event, extensive impact, multiple farm to table dinners 2021 at 7515 Pewitt Road. The property is zoned Rural Preservation 5 and is located in the 1st District. Application has been made for multiple farm to table dinners 2021. The event is a private gathering of the community that benefits safe, affirming family environment, 501c3, or known as SAFE, a local nonprofit serving area foster youth and families. This event is scheduled to operate on 15 days on April 17th, May 1st, May 15th, May 29th, June 12th, June 26th, July 10th, July 24th, August 14th, August 28th, September 11th, October 2nd, October 9th, October 23rd, and November 6th of 2021. As proposed, people will gather at the residence located at 7515 Pewitt Road for farm to table dinners. Applicant had originally planned to use the barn in the events, but it is located in the 200-foot buffer, which led the original submittal to be declined, resulting in the applicant changing the site plan, which took the barn out of the buffer area. Estimated attendance is 35. The application indicates this event is open to the public on a first come, first served basis and plans to schedule attendance through advanced reservations. The site plan submitted shows the required 200-foot buffer and parking area along with the location of a dining area, caterer preparation area, and first aid area. Plans meet or exceed requirements of Williamson County Zoning Ordinance, Section 11.05D7, and include potable water. Guests will be served bottled water, and if needed, potable water is available from the property's well. Porta potties, Kennedy portable toilets, and roll-off is to provide 1 portable restroom. Trash will be stored in the enclosed trash bins and disposed of the next day at the Fairview, Tennessee Convenience Center. Vehicles, there are 19 parking spaces shown on the site plan, which meet parking requirements. For lighting, plans are for the lighting of the site to meet ordinance requirements. Security, the parking attendant will double as a security detail. The 200 buffer requirement is shown on the site plan. The hours of the event are Saturdays from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. and the noise standards will be adhered to as outlined in section 16.02. A first aid station is notated on the site plan and will be tended by a certified physician's assistant to meet the medical requirement. Williamson County Zoning Ordinance, Section 11.05 D7 DIC standards indicate the Board of Zoning Appeals may approve a maximum of 15 cumulative days per calendar year per site for special events with extensive impact. Special use approval is requested per 11.05 D7 for 15 days. April 17th, May 1st, May 15th, May 29th, June 12th, June 26th, July 10th, July 24th, August 28th, September 11th, October 2nd, October 9th, October 23rd, and November 6th. Plans indicate requirements of Williamson County Zoning Ordinance will be met. In addition to meeting the specific criteria, the board must decide whether the request meets the special use standards of 501E by determining that this use is appropriate in the location for which it is proposed.
John?
I'd just like to add a couple of things to this. The applicants began hosting events and applying for permits in February of 2016, and they applied for several permits, both limited impact and extensive impact. They have been before this board in 2017. And those applications continued on a fairly regular basis up until March of 2019, and then they stopped. In September of 2020, our office received a complaint about the ongoing events with no permits. We could verify that with their web presence and their logins online. We did send a notice of violation in October of 2020, and that's they are here to begin to apply for the extensive impact events. They are already turned in and been approved for their 4 limited impact events for 2021. So these events are the result of having the frequency of events for extensive impact. The site plan that I have on the screen, area highlighted in red, the barn that Holly had mentioned in the report that was plan was this area right here. But these are 50-foot grid lines on these squares. And that shows where the 200 feet from the property line is. So they had to move the area to be 200 feet from each side of the property line to meet the buffer area. They do have this is Pewitt Road coming across the south here, southeast. And they do have an agreement with the property across the road to allow that vacant property as part of the 200-foot buffer.
Okay, thank you. And who's going to be the spokesperson for the item?
Would that be me, property owner? I'm not
Yes,
sure.
Mr. DeCiccio, is that, or?
Yes,
Yes.
this is me. Hello.
Wave so we can say where you are.
My name is DeMarco DeCiccio. I am
Okay.
property owner of 7515 Pewitt Road.
Go ahead and make any comments you like on this item.
Thank you for entertaining our cause tonight. Basically, we purchased this property 6 years ago, and this beautiful piece of heaven out here, in my opinion, is made for sharing with others, entertaining. We have been, over the years, increasing our acreage to owning the properties around us. So we're now up to 20 acres. And we, in addition to stuff we do for our own personal family and friends, we really would like to be permitted to do these events. As you've heard, a part of the proceeds benefited local nonprofits that serve foster kids. So we've gone through the entire checklist, checked everything off, and we would just like to ask for your approval.
Okay. Anyone else in your group want to speak on this item? Do you have anyone else with your group that wants to speak on this item? Marco?
No, sir.
Okay. Then I'll open the meeting for public hearing. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item, please identify yourself for the record. John, do you have anyone on the telephone? John, we can't hear you.
I don't have anyone online. I don't believe. I didn't send the invitation to anyone. No one requested it around there. I did have one call and an email that was sent to me to be read as a matter of record for public record. This is from Tina White. She owns property at 7509 and 7519 Pewitt Road. That's on either side of the property, the applicant's property. She lives in one of those houses. I'm not sure which one it is, but she is a resident at one and on the others as well. And her email says, in response to the change of zone for 7515 Pewitt Road, thank you for your time. The reasons to reject this request: this is a residential rural preservation area. This is not the area for the events. We all moved out to this special area because of the zoning. We did not move out here for noise and light pollution. It will reduce our property values. It will increase traffic, light, and noise pollution. Too many transient people will open up the area to crime. It's too taxing on the water supply. COVID super spreaders, the new strain is even more dangerous and deadly. This will put everyone in danger. Having events in the area puts everyone in this area in danger due to the virus being airborne. No one knows how far it can travel in the air. And that's the only comment I had from the public that was sent in.
Okay. One more time we'll ask, is anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item?
You need to go on.
Hearing no one, we will close the public hearing. Go to the board for questions, comments, concerns.
Mr. Chairman, I have one on the trash.
Okay,
Is that, I'm not sure, maybe Holly, you may need to answer this, or is that permissible for an event to take their trash to the local convenience center, or should they be required to take it to the Pinewood Road facility? Holly, can you answer that?
They are permitted to take it to the Fairview Convenience Center. It will be allowed.
Okay. And I have another question about how many workers will be there in addition to the 35 attendees? That would be tomorrow. Yeah.
If I can answer, that's included in the 35. So we have 25 to 30 guests, and then the offsite caterer brings his own staff to help serve the food. So total of 35.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
other questions by the board?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? This is Don Crohan.
I can hear you, Don, go ahead.
Okay, I've got a few questions I could ask from the answer that we just got. Does this mean that the food is prepared off-site? Will you say a caterer coming in?
Yes, sir. A pop-up caterer. So they prepare the food off-site. They bring it to your package, and then they serve it with disposables. And so our main resident or our septic, none of that is needed for this. And it's a buffet.
Okay. My other question is there any alcohol consumed at these events?
There is, and we are familiar with having to apply, and we have in the past, to the ABC, the Alcohol Beverage Commission, for those events. And from what I understand, because this is benefiting a nonprofit, then we fall within the amount of events we are allowed to have per year, as long as we are approved the liquor license, special use, day use liquor license.
Okay, so you have a liquor license at this time?
Not at this time, no. No. We're waiting for the approval of the events, and then we will apply, because it does cost money to get those licenses. But I did my homework to make sure that, and again, we've done this in the past when we've had those permitted events, and they had no issue issuing a license for special use.
Okay, how about music?
Music is very minimal. It could be a guitarist playing music. It's no louder than neighbors playing music in their garage while they're washing their car, to be honest. And we have plenty of room that it doesn't affect the neighbors. So appropriate dinner music, so that guests can speak and hear each other talk over dinner. It's not a concert of any kind.
Okay, but you do understand that the music, the sound from the music has to meet our ordinance standards.
Yes, I'm aware of that, and I've received that information in the ordinance.
Okay, the last thing I would like to know is about the lighting.
Yes, sir.
The lighting, does that meet our standards where it does not perpetrate across the property lines?
Yes, because we are within our 200-foot buffer. There's no lighting in the 200-foot buffer. There's string lighting over the event area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions by the board? Chair will entertain a motion or a question.
Yes, this is Andrew Ring. I'd like to make a motion to approve the special use in accordance with the standards of 5.01E for these events.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Mr. Chairman, this is Don Crohan. I would like to second this, but I would like to amend it with Mr. Ring's permission that this depends on the licensing of the alcohol.
So no alcohol will be served unless they have a proper license. Is that
Correct. That's correct. If
Andrew,
that's all
you-
right with Mr.
You
Ring.
accept that as a friendly,
I have no issue with that amendment.
okay. So the motion is for approval, and alcohol will only be served if and when there's a proper licensing by the beer board.
That's correct. I'll
Okay,
second his motion.
we have a proper motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, assuming ready to vote, chair votes yes. Don,
Don Crohan, yes.
Sue,
Yes.
okay. Karen
Yes.
and Andrew.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. If you'll get with staff, they will give you the necessary forms. And with that, we will go to item number 4. And that's Michael Holt. Ms. Scott, do you have this one also?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Holt on?
He is.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Scott.
This is a request by Michael Holt for a rear setback variance and a side setback variance at 6713 Betts Court. The property is zoned rural development 1 and is located in the 5th district. Michael and Kelly Holt are the owners of 6713 Betts Court, Section 1, Lot 121 of the McDaniel Farm subdivision. According to the tax records, the house was constructed in 2018 and the owners purchased the house in July of 2018. The applicant has applied for a permit to construct a detached garage to the left side of the house. During the review process, it was determined the detached garage would encroach into the required rear yard accessory setback of 15 feet, as established by the Williamson County zoning ordinance, Article 11, Section 11.04, C1C. Also, the current location of the property or proposed detached garage does not completely lie in the rear yard, which will require a variance due to the location not being fully in the rear yard as outlined in the Williamson County zoning ordinance, Section 11, Section 11.04, C1A. According to the site plan and application for variance, the applicant is proposing to add a detached garage to the property. The proposed detached garage will encroach into the required 15-foot rear yard accessory setback by 4.6 feet and partially encroaches in the side yard by 13.2 feet. The applicants are requesting a variance from Article 11, Section 11.04 C1C and Article 11, Section 11.04 C1A of the zoning ordinance to allow the detached garage to be constructed 4.6 feet over the required rear yard accessory setback and 13.2 feet into the side yard. Variances are subject to the provisions delineated in Section 5.02 and specifically the standards outlined in Section 5.02F of the zoning ordinance.
John?
Yes, a couple of items for clarification. The site plan that is on the screen now is the site plan that's submitted for approval or for the variance, the request. If you look through the letter of intent, Mr. Holt included another site plan that showed a pool and a patio. That is something that he is wanting to do in the future. That is not there now, and there have been no application for either one of those outdoor living areas or the pool. So what you have before you on the plan on the screen now is what we're looking at. This area here where I'm hovering over is the side yard variance that we're requesting. This is the back of the house, so this is technically in the side yard. And then just a small area back here, the detached garages can be within 15 feet of the property line. They don't have to meet the minimum 30-foot setback line. So it's just a small area back here that would have to be granted a variance to build as close as 10 foot 4 to the property line. I think that's a 4 or 6, 5, something like that. It's hard to see. Yeah, 10 foot 4. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
John, before you get off, there's two circles. I can't tell what they are. Can you help us?
Right here on to the back of the house.
Yeah, those two.
That is their septic system. It's on a step system on McDaniel Farms. So their sewer actually comes out from the house here, goes into the tank going this way. And then I'm assuming it comes somewhere out here and ties into a tap somewhere out front. But this is a septic tank in the ground.
Well, is there a septic field that this might incur?
This is a step system and it's serviced by a private utility. So we don't regulate that. That's their own utility company that does that. So there's not a septic field that we maintain, no.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? John, you have anything else?
That's all that I have.
All right. Ms. Holt, do you want to add anything to staff's report?
Mr. Holt, we cannot hear you. Cannot hear you, sir.
Note flashed up on the screen that somebody's left the building.
Mr. Holt's still on, but it's showing his microphone is on, but we can't hear him. If it's possible, Mr. Holt, if you could, if you still have the link to the invitation to the meeting, if you just call in the number and you can use that number with the phone and maybe we can hear it that way. You'll probably have to mute the microphone on the computer, even though we're not hearing you. It's probably going to echo a little bit.
Can you hear me now? I'll try it this way. I'm going to try and mute my speaker here.
Ms. Holt, is that you on now?
It is. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Well, we can hear you. I can. Anybody else hear him?
Yeah, I'm going to turn the volume down. Give me 1 second.
Sue, can you mute your mic? Are you still there, Mr. Holt?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you have anything you want to add to the staff's report?
Yeah. So
Go right ahead.
without the variances, the only positioning, which would be in the rear yard, there's two issues. One that he already discussed was our future landscape. And the second is we wouldn't physically be able to pull the motorhome out and turn it without crossing our neighbor's property. The motorhome's 45 feet. And because of the tail swing, it would have to leave the garage completely before making a turn. It has a good turning degree of 60 degrees, but it would still impede into our neighbor's property. As far as the being in the rear, there are 9 other homes in the community that their garages aren't in the rear. I know they're not required to be because of the 30-foot setback, but it would be consistent with some of the other homes in the neighborhood. As far as the rear setback, it's angling into it and out of the 15 feet. So there's a total of 41 square feet that would actually land in the setback. And there's also 15, 20 feet and beyond on the backside of the property that you almost can't tell if it's mine or the association's because it's just grass. So it wouldn't look like we're butting up to someone's wall or anything like that, short of the setback.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
The structure itself would match the house and everything, so it would look good. And there would also be landscaping around it to break up the length of it and stuff, so it wouldn't look like just one long garage.
Okay. At this point, we'll open the meeting for a public hearing. Is anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item? John, do you have anybody?
Chairman Osbrooks, I did send the invitation to 2 or 3 people in the neighborhood. I'm not sure if anyone is on that I sent it to, but if you are on, now is your chance to speak on this item. I think we've given adequate notice.
I'm hearing nothing, so at this point, we will close the public hearing and go to the board for questions, comments, concerns.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman. This is Don Crohan. I would like
Okay,
to know
Don.
this. I would like to know the size of the garage, height, length, and width.
The size of what, Don?
The size of the garage, the height, length, and width.
Okay. Does staff have that information?
It is 20.46 feet wide, 50.46 feet long. And I don't know that I have the height on that readily available. I can possibly get that. Let's see if it's.
Our attachment says it's 28 feet, 8 inches tall that we got.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's part of his application letter of intent.
Okay, thank you. The other question I had was, in looking at the pictures that were sent out to us, it looks like is there a 4-car garage under the house?
Yes, there is.
Thank you. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Okay. Questions from the board?
This is Andrew Ring. Just to be clear, we're being asked for 2 variances. I understand the one with the rear setback, but the second one on the side, that's just because the ordinance says that detached garages will be in the rear of the building and it's not completely in the rear. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, it's not, it doesn't have to be hidden by the house. It has to be in the rear yard. So the rear yard in this case is an extended line of the rearmost point of the house. So the rear yard basically would be somewhere across here. You're following the little hand on the screen, be across that way. Could be in this location, but it would have to be behind this area of the house. So this area right in here would be considered side yard.
Got it. Okay. I'm understanding. It's not too close. It's just not past the line
Right. Yeah.
drawn parallel across the back of the house.
Right. When you say it has to be in the rear of the house, it doesn't have to be hidden by the house. No.
Understand.
Ms. Holt, I have a question for you. When did you purchase this property and when did you purchase your RV?
We purchased the property in 2018 when we moved in, actually 2017. We've had an RV since 2015. And when we purchased the property, we did our due diligence and it was okay at the time to keep it on. They since changed the rules. So the only way to keep it on our property is to enclose it. We've had a fifth wheel or a motorhome on our property and previous property since 2008. Our last home we actually moved to.
Who changed the rules?
The association changed the rules about a year and a half.
It was not the county ordinance that changed. It was your homeowners.
No, it was not.
Okay. Other questions by the board?
Mr. Chairman, this is Don Crohan.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to deny this variance, not meeting section 11.04, 5.02 F and the county standards as far as the setbacks and the side setbacks.
You have a motion?
I'll second that.
And a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll assume you're ready to vote. Chair votes yes. Don?
Don Crohan, yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Motion carries. The request is denied.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hope. And we'll call item number 5, John Schaefer. No, that's not correct. Help me out here, Holly.
I think you had it right. I think it's Schaefer.
Yep.
Okay.
Don, that's right. It's John Schaefer.
Okay, I looked at that and thought I missed it out. Holly, if you're ready, go ahead.
All right. This is a request by John Schaefer for a rear setback variance at 4219 Pate Road. The property is zoned Municipal Growth Area District 1 and is located in the 4th District. John and Laurel Schaefer are the owners of 4219 Pate Road. According to the tax records, the house was constructed in 2000 and the owners purchased the house in August of 2016. The applicant has applied for a permit to construct an addition of a sunroom at the rear of the home. During the review process, it was determined the addition would encroach 17.7 feet into the required rear yard setback of 60 feet, as established by the Williamson County Zoning Ordinance, Article 10, Section 10.02 G2A. According to the site plan and the application for variance, the applicant is proposing to add an addition of a sunroom to the rear of the property. The proposed addition will encroach into the required 60-foot rear yard setback by 17.7 feet. The applicants are requesting a variance from Article 11, Section 11.04 C1C and Article 10, Section 10.02 G2A of the zoning ordinance to allow the addition of the sunroom to be constructed 17.7 feet over the required rear yard setback. Variances are subject to the provisions delineated in Section 5.02 and specifically the standards outlined in Section 5.02F of the zoning ordinance.
John?
Yes, this property was purchased in 2016, I believe. The house was constructed in 2000. The ordinance setbacks have changed since the house was constructed. Previously, the rear setback was 50 feet. Now the setback is 60 feet. The area to the rear here, the little rectangle, is the proposed addition. Mr. Schaefer had a deck on the back of the house that he felt that it was inadequate. He has torn it down. There's no problem with putting the deck back in that area. The deck can encroach into the setback. That's when you enclose it or tie it in with the roof line that it becomes encroaching into the setback. So the proposed setback, he's going to 42.3 feet from the rear property line is what he's proposing for the covered area.
Okay. Well, Mr. Holt, you have anything you want to, I'm sorry, Mr. Schaefer, you have anything you want to add to the staff's report?
Yes, actually, I've prepared a presentation for everyone. If the organizer would be willing to let me present to everyone, I'd like to show that to the group.
Okay, go ahead.
I need the organizer to make me the presenter.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, organizer. So, John, do you know what he's talking about? John, are you there?
John, your mic is muted.
Yes, I am. Okay, I don't know that I'm going to be able to do that.
Okay.
Mr. Schaefer, do you have, was it the letter of intent?
What I have prepared is a PowerPoint sort of summarizing for the group, my comments that I've put together and the summary of variance request and statement of hardship. That document should be put together with the packet that was sent out to everyone.
Well, for the letter of intent, that is in their packet. They do have that and they've reviewed.
So the letter of intent is a separate document than the summary of variance request and statement of hardship that I submitted with the proposal.
It's included with the letter of intent. It's included as attachment 5-2. It would be located in the back of that attachment.
Okay.
It's everything that you submitted, they do have. So unless you have something new, they have it before them.
I want to bring that document to everyone's forefront as I'm going through my explanation of what I'd like to add. That's one reason that I bring it up. In summary, the reason I'm here today is to ask for a variance. We had a deck on this house when we bought it in 2016 that was in very poor condition. It was dangerous. We've grown a family now over the past few years. Our toddler was getting hurt on it, and we went to tear it down, and we learned that it wasn't built to code. The only thing that was holding the deck up was it was bolted to the side of the house. It had not been maintained, and it was actually dangerous. So when we tore it down, we were working through the process of putting something in that would be an upgrade. Because we are starting a family, we have a need to be able to get out of the Tennessee heat from time to time, and having something in place that would have a cover over it would be really important to us. And in that, we tried some of the cheaper, more alternatives that you can find at Lowe's and Home Depot, with the canopy tents and the little umbrellas that you put out. The wind comes through and just blows them right over, knocks them down every time, breaks them. And it's really been a problem having a covered living space outside for the house. And so we want to put something back there that allows you to get out of the heat. And we found out that because it was going to be attached to the back side of the house, this was going to be a problem, and that we needed to put this in front of you guys for approval. The piece of this that I'm going to start going into in terms of an outline, I want to talk to you guys about the statement of hardship that's driving the request, why the structure can't be placed elsewhere on the property. I want to bring up some other considerations for you guys as well as to what's driving the structure, and then the nuances, surrounding the southern side of the property line as well. And then I'll turn it back over to you guys for further conversation. But to bring up the statement of hardship, the house was developed back in the year 2000. I was in high school at the time, and I really, at the end of the day, I don't know why the owner decided to set this house back as far on the property as he decided to. If I was allowed to show you my presentation, I have an aerial screenshot of how far set back it is versus the other houses on this road. And the surveyor and I have speculated on a few things. The first is that there is a really tight turn that this house lives, that is right by it. And since we've lived here, since we moved in 2016, there have been 3 crashes around that corner that have happened in our neighbor's yard to the east. And maybe the owner wanted to set it back for that reason. The second is that possibly the soil quality was so poor behind the house that actually, John, if you want to scroll up a little bit more, I'm a few pages up from where you're at there. Right there. Go down 1 page. There you go. This is the tight turn that I'm talking about. And we have people come through here that are driving 60, 70 miles an hour sometimes. They wipe out on that corner, and then they crash into the neighbors' yards. We've tried I think the county has tried putting signs up to have people slow down, letting them know there's a turn coming. But people crash on that corner routinely. So the owner may have set it back for that reason. The second reason could have been that the soil quality was so poor behind the house that they had to move the house back to allow for the sewage lines to move appropriately through the front side of the property, which there are a pretty extensive series of sewage lines that were going through the front side of the property. It was a massive project whenever they first got started. The last, and what I think is probably the most probable of why this house was set back so far as it was that this property to our south in 2000 was undeveloped farmland when this house was constructed. And it was set with a 54-foot setback, which at the time was under regulation with the 50-foot setback. But the builder didn't give very much space. If you wanted to attach anything to this house at that point, it would have been out of compliance. And so whoever built this house wanted to put something that you could look back into that undeveloped farmland and see that the property looks bigger from where you're standing than what it actually is. And so in 2004, the Rosemont development went in on the southern side of the property, and it's a private gated community. It was developed in 2004. Coincidentally, the owner of this property who developed it sold the property in 2004, which is what leads me to believe that when he developed this, he was expecting to be able to enjoy the undeveloped farmland and to make the property seem bigger than it was. Anyway, regardless of what his decision was there, it prevents us from using the property for its intended purpose. And that's that we have no outdoor living space for us to be able to get away from the Tennessee heat in the summertime. We have small children now. We have bugs, we have bumps and bruises, and then on top of that, we have high winds. And so we need something to be able to put the kids under so that they can at least be outside, especially during the pandemic. We have been home all the time, and it's been a real struggle to keep everyone from getting sunburned and to keep the bugs away. And it's really a shame that we haven't been able to do that. So in that, the neighbor or the prior property owner building it is kind of depriving us of being able to put in some basic structures that we need here to be able to get out of the heat. And then lastly, we don't have the same amount of backyard space that we regularly would for another home that was on this street as well. And so those are the two pieces that are keeping us from using it from its intended purpose. Next, I want to go into the support that we've gotten from our neighbors in wanting to put this together. So if you guys have the ability to look at the survey that I submitted with the proposal, you'll see that we have 4 property owners that live around us. One is James Ladd. I had a conversation with him on December 22nd at 7:30, going through in detail with him what we're wanting to do. We have his complete support. I talked to Tony Clybourne on December 22nd, 10 minutes later than I did Mike. He's in total support of what we're wanting to put in here. I talked to Edward Chadwick, December 23rd, 10:30 a.m. Again, he asked if there's anything he could do to help. He was that supportive of it. And then Ben and Jennifer Rourke, I talked to them same day, 12 p.m. They're also very supportive of what we want to do. Told me to attach whatever I wanted to my house. In his opinion, he's totally supportive. And so I wanted to make sure that point was brought up before we go into some of the other pieces that I want to touch on. And one of the other things that I need to explain is the inability to move the structure elsewhere on the property. And John, if you could go to the page where I have the front side of the house showing, I took pictures of all 4 sides of the house so that you guys could see, it really doesn't make sense to put this somewhere else. This is the front side of the house. We have windows, we have doors. We really can't put a screened in patio here, a deck or anything. John, if you'd scroll down a little bit, and I want to show them the east and western sides of the house. The western side of the house, this is where our air conditioner is. This is where our utilities are coming in at with our electrical. We obviously can't put it there. This side of the house is a pedestrian door and a garage door. The prior owner had converted what was the garage into a mudroom, and then he didn't brick over the garage door. So what looks like is a garage, there isn't. That's a mudroom. And so when I say we don't have an outdoor meeting space to go to stay away from the heat and be outside, we really don't. If you keep scrolling, I want to point out the back side of the house. This is the back side of the house. After I've demolished the deck, you can see that there's a door that's lifted 3 feet off the ground right now. And if we scroll down a little bit further, it's been like that since July. And having small children in the house, we've really had to make sure that they stay away from that door. It's been a journey. But that's a direct shot of the backside of the property. If I was allowed to present to you guys the way that I wanted to, I have a rendition of what the structure was going to look like. but you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit and look at the dirt area that's sitting there. That's where the deck was. That's what we're seeking to replace. We're not trying to create something that's bigger or more grand than what was there before. We're only seeking to replace the footage that was being used by the deck with something more sturdy, longer lasting, and more stable to support our family here. The last thing that I want to talk about is the idea of a separate structure. And my wife and I kicked this idea around a little bit, but back to the hardship from the prior owner and only giving us 54 feet of backyard space. If we were to try to create a separate structure, we would be moving that structure 10 feet away from where the house sits today, and then building a structure behind that. So if we wanted to replicate what we were wanting to do right next to the house, further out into the property, it would encumber 41% of our backyard. It would absorb 22 feet of our limited backyard space versus the proposed structure that we're wanting to build that's just 12. And that only represents 22% of our backyard space. This is, again, it's the same amount as the back deck that was already there. In short, if we were to go the separate structure route, we only have 32 feet of backyard space to use, and we really do need it. Having small children in the house and trying to raise a family here. In that, the proposed structure, we still have 42 feet 3 inches to the back side of the property, and we're going to be using all of that. Absolutely, we need to put in a swing set, that kind of stuff, as March approaches. I want to talk a little bit about some of the nuances to that back property line. John, I have some pictures of that property line showing some trees, if you could scroll to it. So there we go. 3 years ago, this farm style fence that you see in black, that's my back property line. Our neighbor to the back side of us 3 years ago put up these trees, and they've been there for 3 years, and they're providing a great sense of privacy as it stands already. They're developing. Both sides of us are already enjoying the benefits of it. And in time, we're not going to be able to see each other at all, and that's what it's going to be in the near future. I also want to point out the space that's between where our structure is and where our neighbor to the south structure is. The purpose of setbacks is to create a buffer space between the structures on the adjoining properties. And so from where my fence sits to the fence that is on the property to the south of us is 47 feet apart. That is been filled with those trees. My neighbor lives within that gate that is sitting there. And I also want to point out, the top arrow is pointing out how far away the neighbor's house is from where my property line is. And the arrow that's sitting closer to the bottom of that picture is pointing out there's 47 feet there from even behind the natural privacy fence that's being put in place to where we're eventually not going to be able to see each other's properties at all. And so there's a lot of buffer space there. And there's one more picture that I've taken to really drive that point home on the last slide here. I stepped around to the side, and to the right side, you can see, that's the fence line that I was showing in the previous picture off to the right. My fence sits right in front of that. Off to the left, you can see where my neighbor's fence is that him and his family are living behind. And in the middle, you can see that there's actually even a second tree line that's there as well. And there's really, this is just a lot of buffer space as is. And so to really drive home the point that we're really not sitting on top of each other and encroaching on each other's structures, alongside the other pieces of what I wanted to lay out in front of you guys with our need for having something covered that's behind the house that help shelter ourselves from the Tennessee heat and the high winds and the bugs in the summer. But then on top of that, the hardship that was created with what was in the developer's mind whenever they first put together the property. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to you guys for more conversation or questions if you have them. I have Eben with me here from Patio Enclosures, who's our contractor. He's here and ready to answer any questions you guys might have technically about the structure that we would propose to put in.
Okay. At this point, we'll open the meeting for public hearing. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item? John, do you have any requests?
Chairman Aldrich, we did not receive any calls or requests on this item, and I don't believe anyone is online to speak. But if you are, now's your opportunity.
Hearing nothing, we will close the public hearing and go to the board for questions, comments, concerns.
Mr. Chairman, I will bring up the subject of a separate structure. Can that be placed to the side, or does it have to be attached to the house?
I'm not following you.
I guess that would be for John. If there was a separate structure, would it have to be behind the house, or could it be beside the house?
It could be. It's just like the garage that we talked about in the previous item, the rear yard. It has to be in the rear yard, but it doesn't have to be hidden by the house. So it could be anywhere on this site plan that I'm showing on the screen. The rear yard would be anywhere from this property line to the left of the screen, across this back of the house, all the way to the side property line. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be sitting right here. It could be over here as long as it's 15 feet from the property line.
John, if I may, there are trees that sit in that area where you have your mouse. We would not be able to place it there.
Yes, sir. I was just answering the commissioner's question.
Understand.
Other questions?
John, on the property that a detached structure could be put and be within the ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Since this property was purchased, has there been any changes in the physical layout of the house, the driveway, anything along that nature? Has any of that changed?
No.
This is Andrew Ring. Just looking at the thing, it looks like the house itself actually extends into the 60-foot rear setback line that we're talking about. So
yes,
I assume the zoning has changed on this area.
Yes, the original setback was 50 feet. The zoning has changed. Now the rear setbacks are 50 feet. So the original house, I think, was 54.3 feet from the rear property line. So it was in compliance at the time of the construction, but the zoning ordinance did change in 2013.
And now we're talking about a 40, if this structure was, if the variance was approved, 42.3 from here's rear property line.
Yes, we're looking at 17.7 foot variance.
Correct.
They violate both the 50-foot and a 60-foot setback.
I might have misunderstood what you just said. You said that the setback was changed to 50. It was changed to 60 foot, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. I may have misspoke. It was, original was 50 and it was changed to 60 in 2013.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Chair will entertain a motion if you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, this is Don Crohan.
Yep.
I would like to make a motion to deny this variance in that if there is a place on the property, which they said there is, where another structure could be put to be used as a covered spot for the family, I believe this does not come up to our variance standards.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. Chair votes yes. Don? Mr. Cohen, how do you vote? Don, we're not hearing you. Are you muted? Don, how do you vote on your motion? Sue, how do you vote?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Don? Yes. Reading hand sign, Don votes yes. Motion carries. The request is denied. Next item of business is item number 6. Now I lost my page. Who represents for item number 6? Adam Webb?
Believe they are both, he and his wife are both on.
Okay. And I believe, Aaron, you got this one?
No, this is me again.
Okay. Go ahead.
This is a request by Allen and Maura Webb for a rear setback variance at 3674 New Highway 96 West. The property is zoned neighborhood conservation and is located in the 9th District. Allen and Maura Webb are the owners of 3674 New Highway 96 West, which was purchased and recorded September 9th, 2015 in Deed Book 6559, page 230 through 240. The owners are requesting to tear down the existing garage and rebuild a new larger garage that will encroach 19.5 feet on the rear setback of 37.5 feet. The lot is 1.068 acres in size and is lot 22 of the Settlers Point subdivision, which was recorded in Plat Book 7, page 23 on November 28, 1978. At that time, the property was zoned residential A. The recorded plat does not show any setbacks for the side or rear yard, but does notate the front setback at 175 feet. Since this property is zoned neighborhood conservation and the plat does not reference the side or rear setback, Article 10, Section 10.02L2B allows the planning director to establish the minimum side yard and rear yard setbacks based on the closest dwelling along the block face within the same platted subdivision. Currently, this property is the closest dwelling on the block face and is situated 37.5 feet from the rear property line. Based on the above referenced section of the zoning ordinance, the rear setback has been established at 37.5 feet. Because the existing dwelling is 37.5 feet from the rear property, no further encroachments can be allowed, and therefore the building permit for the garage was denied. On March 17th, 2020, Alan Webb applied for the building permit for the proposed garage, which is to be located 18 feet from the rear property line. This original submittal was declined due to missing information. It was resubmitted by the applicant on September 28th of 2020 and disapproved by building codes and planning department due to missing items and the encroachment of the building on the rear setback. On December 14th, 2020, the applicant resubmitted the application with the needed items for building codes. On December 21st, 2020, the building permit was disapproved by planning staff due to the proposed garage encroaching on the rear setback of 37.5 feet. The applicant, Allen and Maura Webb, are requesting a rear setback variance of 19.5 feet. Requests for variance are subject to the limitations and provisions delineated in section 5.02F.
John?
Okay, I think we're all well versed now on the neighborhood conservation setback ordinance. And so this, like the ones we've had in the past couple of months, this property sets the standard on how close you can be to the property line for all the houses along U-96 highway here. This is the closest one to the property line. So no structure can be built any closer than what's already existing. So what I have on here, the site plan for the existing residence and house, the house being up here, and the existing garage is 37 feet 6 inches from the rear property line. And incidentally, there's a survey stake right there so we can measure exactly how far it is from that. So that is accurate. This was platted in 1978. The house was built in 1986. At the time, the front setback, was 175 feet, but puts it just north of these septic fields. So the house sits way back off the road. A couple of things about the property you see labeled, Mr. Webb has it labeled a creek. I don't know if that's a creek or a large drainage area. I'd call it the gully, but your pictures in the packet show water in the front, but then there's not much here in the rear, nothing here in the rear as far as water, but it is wet weather conveyance. It does carry a lot of water when it does rain. So that's where the house was constructed, obviously for the septic fields, the setbacks, and the lack of a better place with the drainage area. This proposed site plan is tear down that existing detached garage and build a new one, a little bit larger, connected to the house with this breezeway, and the setback being 18 feet from the property line. That's all I have, sir.
All right. And Mr. Webb, you have any comments you'd like to add?
Yes. We've been here 5 years, and the existing house has a small garage, about a 20 by 20 garage, which barely fits one car and some tools and things I have. I'm a retired building contractor, built like a couple hundred houses in my career, but I'm 64 years old now. I'm semi-retired because I still like to piddle. So, and I draw Social Security, and I derive part of my income from doing small craft projects for people. I do little stuff or whatever. Sometimes I do little furniture projects, and I really need a shop to work in. And this 20 by 20 garage, when I park my wife's car in, and then I have two other vehicles that I would like to be able to put two cars in. What I would like to end up with is a three-car garage, three-car garage, but take a self section of it and take a shop in there. And yeah, a little workshop area. It's again, it's not something that I work in every day, but just when it's cold outside, I'd like a warm place to go piddle. Right now, I have to drag kind of tools and stuff out in my driveway and work, and then put them all back in. It's really unhandy if it's raining or something or cold weather. I can't do any work, and I do derive part of my income from doing my little piddly jobs. But as you can see, that I'm calling it a creek. It is really more of a drainage ditch. It's wet probably 9 months out of the year. So, I mean, you couldn't build under or anything, but it is about 12 feet wide, about 6 feet deep. So it is pretty large creek drainage ditch, whatever you want to call it. So nothing could be built there. And all of the houses that are on my side, on this west side of this subdivision, are all set really far back, and none of them really have much backyard. But the houses that are in the back of me, yeah, they're way up at the front of their lot, and I'm roughly a football field away from my back property line to their back door, roughly a football field away. So there's nobody even remotely close to my back property line. In fact, I maintain back all behind me and everything. I know it's part of the neighbor's yard, but it was all just grown up when I moved there, and I've cleaned it all up and everything. And as you can see where the garage is at now, the creek is to the left, or to the kind of north side. The driveway is to the west side, or to the east side, and of course the house is in the front there. So I mean, south side. I'm sorry, the driveway is to the south side. The only place I have to go is right there to the west, east side, going to the back of the house. Yes, that's the only possible place I have to build. We're desperate for storage space. I'm desperate for a place to have a shop and to earn a little money. And park our cars. We have one car we can park in a garage, and that's it. So we just, again, desperately need storage space and a place to park our cars. Thanks for listening to our plea tonight. I hope you'll let us build this. We're in need of some space.
Anybody else wishing to speak on it? Anybody else with you? Is there Mrs. Webb out there?
Right here.
Yeah, I don't have anything to
She wishes
add.
to speak on the item?
Yeah.
Can I add one little thing? I have talked to both of my neighbors on the sides of me, and one of the people live behind me. And again, we're all great neighbors, and they're supportive of. They're saying, I hope you get to build it and all that. So nobody is, that I'm aware of, is opposed to anything we're doing here. So.
Okay. Then we'll open the meeting for a public hearing. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak on this item? Any requests, John?
I have not received any calls or letters or emails on this item, and I don't believe anything is online. But if anyone is I'm missing, now is your opportunity to speak on item number 6.
Hearing nothing, we will close the public hearing. And John, would you explain what you have on the screen, this drawing here with the creek and
Okay,
house?
this is what he was talking about. This is, let me pull it on down a little bit too far. This is 96 Highway. This way down here, running across this way. Old Charlotte Pike is toward Franklin, and then Old Hillsborough Road's on the other side of it, kind of give you an idea where it is. The driveway, like I said, it's a long driveway from the highway, and showing this water conveyance, wet weather conveyance, creek, whatever you call it. There's some pretty good pictures in your packet that show the depth of that area there. So it'd be difficult to manage the water any other way. The septic area systems are in front. Those are documented systems from when the house was constructed. He does have septic tanks on this side of the wet weather conveyance. And this is the existing house and the existing garage. It's not attached to the house, although it is probably close enough by definition, to be considered an attached garage by our zoning ordinance, but it is separated a little bit. And then what he's proposing to do is tear down that old garage and build a new larger one in its place and connect it to the house with the breezeway. And it would be 18 feet from the rear property line rather than the 37 feet and 6 inches that is currently there.
Okay. Go to the board now for questions, comments, concerns.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I guess this is for John. So the house itself is at the 37, is that the house at the line? I mean,
The 37 feet 6 inches is from the rear property line to the rear of the existing garage, the detached garage.
Oh, okay. So if he built up to that point, he would be okay. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear
Area
me?
is marked as 78 feet. Just see the figure, 78 feet.
78 feet this
Are there
way.
trees in that area?
It is slightly treed, but there is a separate building back here, I believe, that a building, I think Mr. Webb may help me out here, but this is kind of an
Yeah,
open area.
there's a shed and some trees over there, yes. It takes
It would appear
takes
just
up-
looking at
there's no
what's
drive.
on the screen, the 4-foot culvert and driveway to the garage could be located on the side where it's 78 feet is located, not requiring a variance.
There's no way to get a good driveway over there. You've got the septic tanks, the septic system. You'd be driving over the field lines to get to the garage over on that side of the creek.
The septic lines are down south of what area I'm talking about. Other questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is Don Cronin. Can you hear me?
I can, go ahead.
My question is, if what I'm looking at here, the sketch I gave is they're talking about putting in a 3-car attached garage. Picture that I have in front of me. Is that correct?
I believe if I understand your question, it's correct.
Okay. And now if he were to rebuild the existing garage right now where it is, would he need, would that fall into the right category as existing?
He could build as close as 37 feet 6 inches from the rear property line. That is the setback as established by this lot for the entire block face or the entire street, New Highway 96. So yes, he could build in the same area, but if he wants to get closer to the line than 36, it would require a variance. It can't be approved at staff level.
And how close would that be to the house?
Well, it would be connected to the house. He's going to the house.
Okay, okay.
That will be the closest point from the rear part of the garage to the property line.
So we're talking about an attached garage. We're not talking about a detached.
No, this will be, he's proposing an attached garage or an attached,
Okay.
it's not only a garage, it's a breezeway that leads out into the garage.
Thank you. That's the part I didn't understand. I appreciate it. Thank you.
How much additional space would he acquire by making the change to this, if he received a variance?
You mean how much larger would the new garage be than the existing garage?
Correct.
Mr. Webb, I'll defer to him on that one. I'm not sure exactly what the measurements of the existing and the proposed are.
The existing garage is 20 feet by 20 feet, which is just when you pull the car in and you're just about up to the front door or to the wall, you can barely close the door. So it's a really small garage, 20 by 20. And the new garage would be 24 feet by 36 feet. Does that answer sufficiently?
Well, I'm calculating that means 19 feet closer to the back property line, correct?
Yes, approximately. Yes. I think that's what we're looking at. Yes, we'd be adding another bay and then connecting the garage to the house.
Now you've got a side setback of 50 feet. Is that going to be all that's necessary?
Yes, that's going to stay. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Don Crowhan again. Could I ask you another question, please?
Go right ahead.
If he used the garage he has right now, he could make that longer and he would still be in compliance.
Which direction will you make it
He
longer?
moved towards the 78 feet. In other words, that he only has to have 50 feet. So is that correct?
Correct.
Well, I'm ready for a motion if you are, sir.
I'm ready to go right ahead.
I would like to make a motion to deny this variance because there is room to rebuild the garage he has there and still be in compliance with our codes.
Have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have proper motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Soon you're ready to vote? I hear no discussion. Andrew?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion carries. The request is denied. Anything else before the board? Any other business?
I don't know of anything, Mr. Chairman. I do thank you for your time tonight. I know it's a long meeting. If it's any consolation, we don't have anything for February.
All right. Good deal. Everybody take February off. Except for staff, y'all have to come in, of course. All right, with that, we will meeting will be adjourned.
Nice.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.